So many fruits are used in fragrances, but did you guys know that vegetables are also used in fragrances? There's a whole world of vegetal fragrances, some more vegetal than others. And I've got 15 fragrances today in this video that I'm going to talk to you about that utilize vegetal or vegetables in the fragrances themselves. So if you're curious to learn about vegetable fragrances or fragrances featuring vegetal notes, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about vegetal or vegetable fragrances, meaning utilizing vegetable notes. Could be bell peppers, could be tomato leaves. Tomatoes, although it's a technicality, it's usually a fruit, but they fall into the vegetal category, especially with the leaves and the vines of the tomato leaf. But you know, we've got artichoke, we've got peas, we've got so many different kinds of vegetal or vegetables in perfumery notes that I'm going to talk to you about today. Is this unusual for you guys? Are you not into vegetal fragrances or fragrances that smell like vegetables? Let me know, put a comment down, and if you have a favorite fragrance that features a vegetable as a note, do let me know what it is as well. This is not a big list, although there's 15 fragrances here, and I would have loved to have had a bigger list, but this is what we're going to do today. And in the future, if I end up with more fragrances that feature vegetal notes or vegetables in the fragrances, then I'm going to do an updated list. But let's go ahead and get started with the first fragrance, going to the house of Comme des Garçons. This is Rouge, this one right here. Rouge is called Rouge because it utilizes beetroot or the beets in this fragrance. And beets are vegetables, of course. It's a root vegetable and I enjoy them to eat, but it's very unique in this fragrance here as a smell. It has a really great kind of vegetal fruitiness, almost reminding me a little bit of rhubarb, which I didn't feature rhubarb here in this video. I'll be doing a separate rhubarb video later on. But the beetroot here is it's great. It's a very unique fragrance, and the fragrance itself is very Comme des Garçons-like. They do unusual fragrances generally, and they do utilize unusual notes, and I think they've done a great job here with the beetroots. And then there's incense, ginger, there's pink pepper, there's mint, there's labdanum and patchouli. It smells great. It dries down to kind of a woody, ambery, slightly smoky presence, but up top you've got this kind of vegetal fruitiness, spiciness, and some aromatic touches as well. It's a great scent, one of my favorites from Comme des Garçons. This is Rouge from CDG, Comme des Garçons. I have to be honest, they do some unusually great fragrances that I really like them for that particular reason. It's a great designer house. This next fragrance is from the house of Le Parfum de Rosine. This is Eloge du VERT, utilizing green bell peppers as a note. If you've ever chopped up or sliced bell peppers, smell it really, really closely, because when I do that, there's actually a rosy undertone, and it figures this brand focuses on roses in their fragrances. That's why it's called Le Parfum de Rosine, rose. And so they've combined bell peppers with the rose here, along with black pepper, ginger, patchouli, and cedar. It's a very green fragrance, very vegetal smelling with that bell pepper note. And of course, it's really nicely meshed with the rose. They do complement one another. Smell the bell peppers, as I said, and also smell some roses, because sometimes when you've got the stemminess of roses, it kind of does remind me of bell pepper. So it's very interesting that happens like this. Same thing happens with black pepper and incense. They do remind me of one another, not identical. But here, I think it's a great fragrance, great fresh but dense rose and bell pepper fragrance that smells really beautiful. So this is Le Parfums de Rosine, Eloge du VERT. Let me know if you know that one. I do have a video on the channel. Go catch that review. And again, as I said, I'm combining tomato leaves here as a vegetable kind of a note, because it's it's an unusual fruit, and rarely see it in fruity fragrances. Because for me, when I smell fragrances that feature either the tomato leaves or the tomato fruits, they don't smell fruity to me. In this case, we've got Sisley's Eau de Campagne, this one right here, created by Jean-Claude Ilena in 1976. Very green and herbal for me. Tomato leaves are very, very prominent here, with basil, oakmoss, geranium, lemons, bergamot, vetiver, galbanum, patchouli, musk, lily of the valley, and jasmine. This is kind of like your traditional eau de cologne, like 4711 or Neroli Portofino, going into kind of like green, bitter, vegetal, earthy, kind of aromatic direction. Really great, freshy, smells great and smells wonderful. It's perfect for the heat as well. So this is Eau de Campagne from the house of Sisley. If we can focus there. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. I've been speaking quite a bit about that one as of late. But moving on to the house of Diptyque, this is Eau Rose in Eau de Parfum concentration. This one right here. And here, once again, we've got rose married with a vegetable. In this case, we've got artichokes. It's got a very green stemmy vibe. That stems of the rose does smell like artichokes. I don't know if you've ever played around with artichokes, sliced them, things like that. There's this very stemmy smell, the way the vegetable smells itself. And here, it's nicely meshed with the rose because roses are really beautiful. This is jammy. This is also the EDP, so it's a lot more intense, but it really nicely blends with artichokes. It's artichokes, rose centifolia, rose damascena, chamomile, musk, woods, and lychees. There's a little bit of a fruitiness here with the lychee note, and I feel like lychee really nicely blends with rose, but you definitely get that green artichoke touch here with Eau Rose EDP from the house of Diptyque. So check that out if you don't know that one. I do recommend it. It's a really great fragrance. But moving on to the house of ORIZA LEGRAND. This is CHYPRE Mousse, this one right here. This is, in the end, a CHYPRE fragrance, but utilizing these kind of vegetal notes. It features mint with fennels, lots of fennels here, and there's also mushrooms. So it's a very green fragrance and also very, very earthy, but in the end it's a CHYPRE after all. In addition to those notes, we've got Oakmoss, there's a soil tincture, angelica, galbanum, clover, green notes, clary sage, chestnuts, and vetiver. Very unique combination, but what a wonderful fragrance this is. Really get the soiliness of the soil tincture. You get that kind of mushroomy earthiness. Also the oak moss is really prominent here, and the greenness of the fennel and the mint together. One of my favorite fragrances from this house. It's very unusual, very unique, but also really, really gorgeous to wear. So this is CHYPRE Mousse from the house of ORIZA LEGRAND. That is a wonderful offering from that house, if you don't know it, utilizing vegetal notes. So if you guys are familiar with L'Artisan Parfumeur, last year they launched a collection of fragrances called Le Potager. They are five or six different fragrances utilizing vegetable notes with popular perfumery notes. So I was really into two of them, and both of them are created by Quintin Biche. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is, it is the correct one. It's Iris de Gris, this one right here. So basically they've taken iris, combined it with green peas and bergamot. So basically it's powdery, but it has major greenness that smells of like the, vegetable peas. And if you've ever smelled peas, there's definitely a very distinct green smell. And here it's nicely blended with the iris's powderiness. There's also the kind of butteriness and the creaminess of the iris here. So not only you're experiencing the powderiness, you're also getting that kind of creamy quality, and then it's freshened up with the bergamot. Along the way, you'll experience some woodiness and perhaps some light ambery touches in the dry down as well. But for me, it's a very green iris fragrance, focusing on the peas, the notes of peas. Really great fragrance. Check it out. This is one of my favorite Le Potager fragrances. And definitely a very vegetable or vegetal fragrance. So the next fragrance we've got is another fragrance from the L'Artisan Le Potager collection. And this is Vetiver Écarlate, this one right here. So this one is tomatoes or tomato leaves, but it's part of the collection of the vegetable garden or Le Potager. And of course, as I was saying earlier, tomato leaves, tomatoes are kind of, fruits, but they act very vegetable or vegetal to me. So this is tomato leaves, grapefruit, and vetiver, and it's a great, great fragrance. Not only do you get the tomato leaves touches, but you're also getting the actual tomato here. There is a bit of a succulent quality, and I like that about it. So not only are you getting the greenness of the tomato leaves, but the fruitiness of the tomatoes as well. But in addition, you've got that grapefruit and vetiver here, and then, of course, vetiver is very earthy, woody, and it meshes really beautifully with grapefruit. But in this case, we've got the grapefruit, the tomato leaves, the tomatoes, and the vetiver playing wonderfully together. It's a great vetiver fragrance. This is Vetiver Écarlate. Check that out if you don't know it. A wonderful offering from the house of L'Artisan Parfumeur. So moving on to the house of Dias & Durga. I just spoke about this last week with a video on how the brands are raising prices. This is one of the brands that is raising prices. This is Bistro Waters. This is it from here, from Dias & Durga. And the reason I bought this was to put together this video of vegetable or vegetal fragrances. This one utilizes notes of green bell peppers along with lime blossom or linden blossom. There's also coriander here, there's moss, there's basil, pear, mandarin, and nutmeg. In the end, it's very, very fresh and very, very green. And of course, the bell peppers comes to mind, and you have all the flowers along with it and the spices. It does smell like the smell of a restaurant perhaps while you're cooking and things like that. But for me, this is more like the smell of salads rather than like, you know, frying or boiling and things like that. But it's a great scent. I really enjoy it. I'm glad to have it here and to feature in this video. Bistro Waters from DS and Durga. Are you guys familiar with it? Do let me know if you have tried it, and do let me know if you're curious to try it. Moving on to a house called Boho Boko. This is Wild Carrot Oud. Can you guys believe this? This is Wild Carrot Oud. So it has carrots as a note. Carrots have a very powdery presence. Also kind of reminds me of iris a little bit. So this is a very powdery fragrance, but leaning vegetal because of the carrot notes. Although carrots, when you boil them, they get sweetened up because they have a very sweet characteristic. But here it's very, very vegetal with all the notes that they've combined it with, like woods, and they've got oud. They've got earthy notes here. There's leather, styrax, cedar, tobacco, cinnamon, bergamot. So this is a bit animalic. The carrot notes kind of balances it out to creates for a little more welcoming presence, especially if you're not into the animalic oudy fragrances. It's a bit strong as well, but very well done with the combination of the woods, the carrots, and then also the oud. If you enjoy oud fragrances and you want something a little different, definitely check out Wild Carrot Oud from the house of Boho Boko. That is a great fragrance to try. Then moving on to the house of Parfum d'Empire. This is Corsica Furiosa. I guess this is the second fragrance I've featured this week from this house. One of my favorite, very underrated or underhyped brands, Parfum d'Empire. This is Corsica Furiosa. Once again, we've got tomato leaf here. Once again, it's a very green fragrance, and it's very fresh and herbal, and it does kind of smell like running in a field of like herb-like growth, and perhaps there's some like vegetables or some light fruits growing there as well. It's capturing that presence. But for some reason, when I wear this one, I get this visual of a field of like overgrowth of vegetables and things like that. Well, herbs and things like that. But it's eau de vie, which is a fruit brandy. We've got tomato leaf, oak moss, mastic resin, and wild mint. Really great fragrance, great green fragrance, very fresh and very herbal as well. So this is Corsica Furiosa from the house of Parfum d'Empire. Check it out if you don't know that one. So we've got one more Comme des Garçons fragrance, and this one I feel like it's on its way out. So if you like the idea of it, get it ASAP. There is some stock out there, but I feel like Comme des Garçons has discontinued this one, which is a great fragrance. I had a friend that went through like 3 or 4 bottles since this launched in around 2019. In fact, my bottle might be pretty empty. Damn, I need to get another bottle as well. So this is Radish Vetiver from Comme des Garçons. So basically, vetiver combined with radishes. If I can get that focused here. Not working. There we go. So Comme des Garçons, as I was saying, makes some very unusual fragrances and takes some unusual notes and combines them together. Radishes, to me, I love radishes. The big ones, the kind of white ones, or the small round reddish and white ones. They have a watery consistency, and they gave the smell of radishes here, along with that kind of watery wetness that radishes have when you break into them or slice into them. So it's radish with cypriol. There's gaillac wood, vetiver, and akigala wood. And for me, the most prominent notes are the radishes and also the vetiver. And they work really wonderfully together. Vetiver and radishes. The vetiver is that earthy woods, grassiness, and then you've got this kind of wet vegetal, but it's definitely a vegetable or a root, and so the combination is really wonderful. So radish vetiver, it's an awesome offering from the house. And again, I think it might be on its way out, so look for it if you like the idea. Those were fairly inexpensive fragrances, but I believe because they're also 30 ml bottles. So up next, going to the house of État Libre d'Orange. This is Like This. So this time we've got pumpkins as a note. We got all kinds of vegetables in this video. So this is one of my favorite fragrances. In fact, when the first time I walked into the État Libre d'Orange boutique in Paris, we went through the whole entire collection. And this was my first love from this house, and I bought it there. This was like almost 10 years ago. But I really love this one because of the pumpkin note, along with Immortelle. There's ginger, clementines, heliotrope, musk, neroli, and vetiver. Because of the Immortelle and the pumpkins together, it really creates a very autumn-like presence when you're wearing this, because the Immortelle has that kind of very dried, caramelly, brown sugary, presence, along with the pumpkins, which is something that we, deal with around Halloween and Thanksgiving. So for me, the fragrance wears very autumn-like, but there's freshness there, some spiciness in there as well, and some powdery touches too. So this is Like This from the house of Etat Libre Orange. It used to be called Tilda Swinton Like This, because I believe she was the creative director of that fragrance. One more fragrance. This is an unusual fragrance. It utilizes black truffles from the ground, kind of like mushrooms. This is Noir de Noir from the house of Tom Ford. This is a super sexy fragrance with that black truffles note, along with rose, saffron, oak moss, patchouli, flowers or floral notes, oud and vanilla. It's a CHYPRE fragrance, but very dark, very gothic, and of course very sexy. Just a very unisex offering with all these combination of notes, and wears wonderfully. I used to wear a ton of this one. It used to garner me compliments, but I wanted to feature it here as the fact that it has the black truffles note, and it's kind of a mushroomy vegetable. So I'm including that here as a fragrance that you can check out. So Noir de Noir from the house of Tom Ford. And then the last two fragrances don't really mention any vegetal notes. At least they don't, but I get a very vegetal quality. The first one is the house of Hermes. It's Un Jardin sur le Nil. So this one, everybody says there's the tomato leaf note, or the tomato note in general. I do get that kind of a style here, but Hermes doesn't claim that there is this note in here. They say it's green mangoes, lotus flower, calamus, frankincense, and sycamore. And I feel like it's this calamus note that's creating this kind of succulent tomato-like quality here. And so it's giving this kind of like presence of tomatoes. Either way, it acts very vegetal, and I like it. It's very fresh, a bit more skin scent-like, and the smell is not super strong, but there's a big following for this one, and I feel like it's a great summer scent. So this is Un Jardin sur le Nil from the house of Hermes. Last but not least, we're going to the house of Joram Studio, and this is Paradisi. So I bought this from their boutique in Edinburgh, and I went through the whole collection of fragrances with the brand, and this was the one I fell in love with. It's almost like you're in a garden, a vegetable garden, an herb garden and vegetable garden, and perhaps a fruit garden as well. All of these kind of, items that grow are in this garden, and you're walking through it. It's overgrown. You're stepping through leaves and herbs and vegetables, fruits. It's the smell of all of this stuff is hitting your nose, and that's what it feels like to me. It's earthy because it also has soil tincture along with oak moss. There's patchouli, grapefruit, cucumber, rhubarb, guavas, mushrooms, cedar, passion flower, magnolia, honeysuckle. It's such a great fragrance. I really, really love this fragrance. It just smells really, really wonderful and very vegetal, fruity, green. And just imagine that garden, huge garden, overgrown with all this vegetables and fruits and herbs and greens, everything. That's what it reminds me of. This is Paradisi from the house of Joram Studio, and that is the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today. So let me know what your thoughts are on these fragrances. Are you a fan of them? Do you enjoy this kind of green vegetable style fragrances, or fragrances that feature vegetables as a note? Let me know if you have a favorite that I did not discuss here. There's not a lot out there. There are some. And some of the notes that I mentioned here are utilized a lot in fragrances. Some of the more random ones I couldn't find, at least I didn't have any, so I wasn't talking about them. But either way, guys, do let me know if you have any favorites. Put a comment down so I can find out. But other than that, please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So one more fragrance I wanted to highlight here, but I don't have the fragrance here. It was a discovery at Exxon's earlier this year. It's called And the Pea by Belle Rebel. So basically, and the pea as in peas. So this is a great green looking bottle because it highlights the peas note. Once again, we had this Eerie the Gris with the peas note. And of course, And the Pea features it as well. I'm hoping to get my hands on a bottle so I can report back on it. But when I smelled it at Exxon's, it smelled really, really great. Really love the idea of this fragrance. I like vegetable fragrances because I've mentioned this in videos in the past. My dad used to grow a garden, not only herbs and flowers, but vegetables and fruits. everything. And so I like the smell of this kind of stuff in fragrances. And I'm seeing that they're kind of starting to pop up more and more in fragrances, which is why I did this video today. But I'm very curious to get my hands on a bottle of And the P, and we'll report back on it. If you have gotten your nose on And the P, do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned for another video tomorrow. Bye-bye.